in just a moment. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, public comment will occur during the public comment portion of the meeting and is done via raising your hand remotely or in person. During public comment, once acknowledged, please state your name and ward so that it can be included in the minutes, and please limit your time to 3 minutes. Public comment is governed by policy BEDH. Are there any additions or deletions from the agenda?
There is none.
All right, we will open the floor up to public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Seeing none, is there any online?
There is no public comment online.
Okay, great. Student report, I do not see. We will circle back to that. Correspondence, is there any correspondence?
Yes, we got some correspondence from Don Hemingway regarding the Boys and Girls Club proposal.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so we're going to go into the consent agenda. We need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the minutes in the consent agenda.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by John, second by Tia. Any additions or corrections or changes to those minutes? No? No? Okay. Carrie O'Hara is joining us online, so we are going to do a roll call vote for this. So, Jessica?
Yes.
Tia?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Joe?
Yes.
Layla?
Yes.
And Carrie?
Yes.
Great, thank you. All right. And that, before we move into the leadership team update, I just have a quick letter to read from Kevin Schutz, who is a board member who's not able to be here today, and he asked that I read this quickly. Members of the board, superintendent, educators, families, and students, I regret that I'm unable to deliver this statement in person, but I hope its message remains impactful. Serving as a member of this school board has been a privilege. The dedication and passion of the Lebanon School District's administration and staff inspire me, and I am proud of their commitment to nurturing our children into thoughtful and intelligent contributors to our community and the world. As my time on the board comes to an end, I want to emphasize an evidence-based and mission-aligned recommendation: delaying school start times for middle and high school students. Over the past decade, research has consistently shown the benefits of later school start times. Organizations such as the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the American Academy of Sleep Medicine recommend that middle and high schools begin no earlier than 8:30 a.m. This guidance reflects the biological reality that adolescent circadian rhythms shift later, making it difficult for teenagers to fall asleep and wake early. Early start times lead to chronic sleep deprivation. The data are clear. Insufficient sleep increases anxiety and depression, lowers academic performance, raises absenteeism, and puts teen drivers at greater risk for accidents. Districts that have moved start times later have seen improvements in attendance, grades, student well-being, and reductions in tardiness and disciplinary issues. I recognize that change can be challenging and may require adjustments in transportation, athletics, extracurriculars, and family schedules. However, the benefits for students and educational outcomes outweigh these challenges. Our community's creativity and collaboration will help us find solutions to logistical concerns. Aligning the school day so students arrive rested and ready to learn directly supports our strategic plan to grow our students and grow our systems. I urge the board and administration to make delayed start times a top priority for the well-being of our students. Thank you for the opportunity to serve and for your sincere dedication to the students and staff of this school district. All right, we will move on to the SAU leadership team update.
Thank you. In your packet, you have the executive summary mid-year review from the strategic plan. I am joined here tonight by my team. I want to thank them for coming tonight and being a part of this process. As a learning organization, it is really important for us to take pause and reflect on our learning so far, make adjustments, and celebrate the good work and set goals for the years ahead. I included our 6 goals within the strategic plan presentation as a reminder. Before I get started, I just want to reiterate, this year we spent a significant amount of time highlighting the vision of learner and graduate in the skills and including them in the superintendent newsletter and every classroom in the school, as well as our district office. We're starting to set those benchmarks to increase engagement through learner-centered strategies to improve academic outcomes. I'm pleased to say an upcoming EC meeting, Karen Dubois will be sharing some early data that we have to show some great growth. We're encouraging our administrators to take risks and innovate to and promote our student-centered approaches and high levels of student engagement. This fall, staff were invited to the Lifted Conference for Innovation. This year, we have been selected to come back as an alumni, and we'll bring in an additional team, which I'm very excited about. Ben Nestor and his team is working extremely hard in unpacking the strategic plan in the areas of emotional well-being and mental health, and he will update those data points later on. We are also analyzing operations through our Vision of a Learner graduate by presenting and updating our building level goals, creating budgets that are aligned to our priorities. We've adopted a class size policy. We continue to review options for future uses of the SAU. And we evaluated the elementary schools through the equity and enrollment lens. So I am going to turn it over to Karen. The people will be ready to come up next. If anybody has a question for Karen, we're going to have the questions go with the speaker, so we don't have to wait till the end. So welcome, Karen.
Hi, everyone. Am I using this correctly? So it's always exciting when I do it right the first time. Hello, I'm Karen. I am the Director of Academics Engagement and Opportunity. I'm pleased to share a brief update on the goals that overlap with my area. You have several slides in front of you. I'll just briefly speak about each one as we advance through, and then be happy to answer any questions that you have for me. One of our goals related to Strategic Plan Goal 1 was to identify competencies and standards to inform curriculum development in alignment with our vision of a learner. This aligns with some changes mandated by the ED 306 minimum standards for public education. We are working to develop standards and competencies for all disciplines across all grade levels, and they'll be ready for board approval later this spring. The teachers have been reviewing those drafts. We are also leveraging federal grant funds to offer new innovation experiences for our learners, including after-school programming and summer programming. We are continuing our focus on project-based learning and as one of our innovation efforts with ongoing PBL learning for our educators, and we're excited with the way that we're seeing that play out in the classroom. I'm not sure who's advancing the slides.
Tyler.
Tyler, can I? Oh, thanks. Another goal related to Strategic Plan Goal 3 regarding staff learning that's aligned to our vision of a learner was to onboard, continue to onboard our educator effectiveness plan. That included a new digital tool and a new framework for providing feedback to our educators and really facilitating a dialogue between supervisors and the educators so that we tie more tightly together our educators' own professional goal setting, feedback from their supervisors, and their professional learning trajectories. That's going very well. Our goal is for 100% of our staff to participate in that and to engage in meaningful goal setting for the year ahead this spring. Next slide, please. Oh, are we on the next slide? Yep. Thank you. Additionally, under Goal 3, we are working to make sure that our onboarding for new educators and our mentoring programs adequately support our staff. We're pleased to say that 100% of the teachers who are on site-based alternative certification pathways over the last 3 years have successfully obtained their licensure. All of our teachers who began on a 1-year authorization have successfully transitioned to site-based plans, and we really feel good about the mentoring program that we've established and augmented over the last 2 years. We really consider this goal to be fully met at this point. Next slide, please. Finally, we, related to Strategic Plan Goal 5, we convened a multi-stakeholder group beginning last spring and continuing through the summer into the fall when we expanded the stakeholder group to examine the question of school start times. We have paused this work until April for a variety of reasons. All of the districts involved, which includes Grantham and Plainfield representation, agreed that this work, while we're off to a really robust start, would best be taken up again in the spring in advance of next fall's budgeting season.
In addition with open enrollment legislation pending.
Yes,
with
that's
another
the central reason it was paused is because of the uncertainties that open enrollment brings for all of the districts concerned. It's just best to wait and see if we have more robust information available to us about that facet of our school future. April.
Thank you,
With
Karen.
that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the details presented on the slide or anything else related to the strategic plan.
I had a question about the strategic plan goal 3, the Danielson framework and vector tool. If you can just let me know what was in place before the Danielson framework and what is the Danielson framework?
Yeah, absolutely. We had for many years broadly speaking, when we look to provide feedback to our educators about their job performance, it's helpful to have a framework that defines what good teaching and curriculum development can look like. So previous to this, to last year, we used something called the Marzano framework. It's more or less a rubric for teachers. After a lot of years using that, there were some problem areas to it. It wasn't easily tailored for job-specific feedback. So, for example, if you're trying to give feedback to a school counselor, there wasn't really an adequate framework for that person's unique job, which is distinct from a classroom teacher. Additionally, it came packaged with a really clunky digital tool that we needed to shed. So as part of that transition to a new digital tool, it was a wise time to re-examine the framework. Danielson is really industry dominant in lots of ways, been used for many decades. There's a new version of it that we liked better than previous versions, and I have to give credit to Dr. Bonnie Robinson at the high school, who really was instrumental in helping us look at the Danielson framework and tailor it to specific jobs within the district. So we're optimistic that it will provide much better feedback opportunities for our teachers, and a key component is it allowed us to bring our paraeducators into the same umbrella. So we were able to modify that tool to use successfully with our paraeducators as well. Helps them feel valued, helps us all to be on the same page about how we define good teaching and learning.
Do you have another question? Or?
No, thank you.
Okay. I just had a quick question. Your future goal under goal 3 is to have 100% of staff participate in one-on-one feedback meetings. What's our current percent participation?
I'm sorry, to have 100% of staff
Participate in one-on-one feedback meetings in March?
in March. It is true that previous to this, 100% of teachers and paraeducators have one-to-one evaluation meetings in March as part of our annual evaluation process. That's really governed not just by district practice, but also by our employment contracts and our union agreements. However, despite the fact that that was 100% people having the meetings, I guess the key word is meaningful.
Okay.
New, meaningful meetings with lots of feedback happening in March.
Great, thank you.
It's hard to improve on 100% of people participating.
But that tool is a great tool right down to specifics that teachers can get feedback on and set improvement goals or align professional development too. So Charlotte Danielson tool is a big thumbs up. And as Karen said, around for the industry, it's used broadly.
Are there any other questions for Karen?
I did have one more question, sorry. For the strategic plan goal with the PBL focus, have you just noticed or have teachers kind of expanded upon how much more PBL is happening? Or how is that being kind of quantified, I suppose?
Great question. I'm going to ask you to put a pause on that because I think some of our building leaders are going to talk a little bit about problem and project-based learning in their buildings. But I can briefly share, it really, since it's become more of a professional growth focus for us over the course of the last 18 months, we've done a couple of things. We've successfully voiced what we're already doing well and created opportunities for teachers to learn from their peers who are already skilled practitioners of problem and project-based learning. So we're doing a better job of amplifying within our community of teacher learners what we're already doing. And then we also have created training opportunities that have reinvigorated interest in this type of instructional model. And so it's being used in a more widespread manner. And again, I think our building leaders will talk more about that.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Karen.
All right, next up is the high school, followed by the middle school, who is on deck.
Good evening, all. Ian Smith, principal at the high school.
And I'm Bonnie Robinson. I'm the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment at the high school.
So goal one, we will reaffirm LHS, our commitment to the vision of a graduate. A couple of weeks ago, kids were given a survey to reflect back on the survey that they did early in the fall. 95%. So one was growth, one were what? Areas of strength, and then areas of growth. 95% of students feel they have grown in the area of feels that they have improved on their, let's see, I have tiny writing and weak glasses. Those who have identified pieces of the vision of a graduate that were strengths of theirs, 95% of kids feel that they have improved on those strengths. Areas that they've identified and asked to weigh in on that were growth areas, 93% of students feel that they have improved on their areas of growth. So if you look at bullet one and bullet 4 were areas of strength. 21% of students on that first make connections between new information feel that although it was a strength, they've still improved on it. Bullet number 4, demonstrate personal responsibility, integrity, reliability, et cetera. 20% of those surveyed, and 415 students took the survey, so we think that was a critical mass of kids weighing in. 20% of those students feel that they have improved. Bullets number 2 and 3 were areas of growth, and they were from primarily domains, or the first 2 tenets of the vision of a graduate that reflect more on classroom instruction. 21% of kids feel that they are doing better on this area of growth, taking risks, going beyond conventional parameters. 18% of kids identified their ability to better ask questions to deepen understanding. And finally, an area of growth, organized thoughts, ideas, and information. 16% of students commented that they do a better job now than they did at the beginning of the school year. Goal number 2. I'm happy to answer questions at the end. We were trying to figure out a way, I think we expressed some concern, or not concern, trying to navigate a path to show how learning strategies are being implemented in the classroom setting. The vignettes that we've done have been very successful based on the feedback that we provided you here. I think it's fair to say that our staff meetings have become more vigorous. I think staff have commented that it's a good constructive use of time. They enjoy hearing what staff members are doing in their classroom, and they've been able to take from those staff meetings pieces that they've been introduced to and weave those into their classroom setting. So 42 faculty members responded with the survey. 97% have found the instructional vignettes having to do with learning strategies a good use of their time. In fact, nobody answered that they were not a good use of time. A couple of folks who don't have the role of implementing curriculum in the school said it wasn't especially relevant to what they were doing as a part of their daily job in the building. But we provided you with some anecdotal, qualitative quotes, and I think people are genuinely invigorated that we're using that time well once a month. Almost every class that I go to, which is interesting, one of the things that we've talked about for years is how we settle a classroom, and some teachers are better at that than others. When the bell rings, how do we go about setting the stage for learning to take place? So almost every classroom that I visit has some type of prompt, a math problem on the board, some type of quote that they're asking kids to write about, and it's done in silent fashion, and I think it's become kind of widespread throughout the building, and that's a learning strategy that's been widely adopted that didn't exist 7, 8 years ago. So that's just an example of a strategy that's had success. One of the interesting, Bonnie and I were just discussing it in our, this is observing teachers widely for the last couple of months, getting in, trying to fulfill our official duties before the end of March. And almost every class, at least a piece of it, has a PBL element to it. And our teachers do a pretty good job of breaking down a classroom where there's some instruction, where there's some group work, where they're gathered together at the end to produce, some type of summative statement to share with the class. And I think that's an example. And again, kind of anecdotal. It's tough to measure, but we see it used, and certainly it's embedded in our math classes. But it's kids gathering at tables, talking prior to or after being introduced to material, processing it, synthesizing it, and then being asked to comment on it is a regular part of our school day.
I'd like to talk about our third goal, which is our preparation for the NEASC accreditation process. You might remember that they were here 2 years ago for a collaborative conference. We were asked to set goals, and this will be much the same thing, where we are now reflecting on our goals and showing how we have grown in the last 2 years since they've been here. In doing that, we need to go through the entire process we went through 2 years ago. And we started this in August. Our first seminar about this process is tomorrow. So we're quite a bit ahead, because starting tomorrow and being ready in 6 months for their visit at the end of September seemed unrealistic. So we've gotten a great start on it. We've completed 2 of the 4 sections, the 4 Cs and the NEASC foundational elements. We're right now working on part 2, the reflection on the priority areas for growth. They kind of align with the strategic plan. Although they were written before the strategic plan, we've found many ways to integrate the vision of a graduate into that work. We're talking about 2 new tools today of when you start a unit, what are your targeted aspects of the vision of a graduate that we will see and be able to measure in that unit. So it all is kind of coming together, though it's kind of a disparate process. Nonetheless, we have 3 areas for growth: cultural competency and student services. One of the examples we'll use for that is our adoption of the Cartwheel counseling program. On the CIA goal, we are hoping that this spring we'll be publicizing stage 1 of our curriculum docs on the web and have an outward-facing curriculum for the first time. And in the facilities area, obviously the development of the hangar was a huge project for our facilities team and remarkable work. Another example that we plan to use is the Schoolyard Canopy Enhancement Program, which is a collaboration with the Lebanon Tree Advisory Board. There it is. I was going to call them an association, as well as our teachers, our students, and some parents. So we have lots of examples. We just need to put it all together into a final package that we'll be ready to present at the end of September.
Bonnie, before we go to questions, will you just explain what NEASC is and why it's important to the district and the high school?
NEASC is the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. It's mostly a New England-ish kind of accreditation assessment tool. It goes into Rhode Island, I believe, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont. And every 10 years, they come and check on us. Every 10 years, they've changed the standards as well. So we have to realign to their new standards. And keeping our school accredited is a very important thing for our students moving on. We will easily become accredited again, but the self-reflection that goes into it and the analysis of student work and lesson plans and all of that is vital to our remaining current in our practice.
Thanks. Does anybody have any questions for the high school? I just have one question while people are thinking. Do we have any way of quantifying how much use is being made of the cartwheel counseling?
Yes, actually, we just got a presentation today from them, so we'll be able to report back on that. We have all of that data.
Great. I didn't know if
Yeah,
it was
number of referrals, number of
Perfect.
kids who've followed up, et cetera. We have all of that.
Great. Layla?
I have a question about Goal 1. The students reflected that they saw improved growth, but on their lower things for the point 2 and point 3, taking risks, being creative, or asking questions at deeper and understanding. I wonder if there were any teacher reflections that commented on those two areas, since I assume it would have been a communicated target for the year.
So that wasn't a specific tenet that we posed to the teachers. So we did not question the teachers about how they felt about their student population and whether they're better now in February than they were in October at taking risks and going beyond, what they feel comfortable with. That's something that we could pursue. It's a good question to ask at the March staff meeting in advance. And
I'd be curious, because I know, each set of students is different, but I'd be curious because these critical thinking skills are so important to see if we're seeing that kind of momentum, if we're seeing any changes or shifts, particularly because the actual classroom environment. I really want to commend everything about the Goal 2 report. It sounds like it's just being a really positive place for teachers. That's very inspiring. So that was wonderful. Thank you.
so the hope is that they have not just the tolerance, but the desire to have these instructional vignettes continue. And I think that's something we might, as close to mandate as we feel comfortable doing. But they're short. People look forward to them. They're well-received, gets people up and moving around, and we, in effect, become a classroom for 10 minutes. So it's a good use of time.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Oh, he's here already. Look at.
Good evening. My name's Tom Harkins. I'm the principal of the middle school here. I will be going through the middle school goals, of course. I would actually like to start by thanking Jessica and Kevin, who's not here, for serving on the board. I believe this is the last time we'll see you here as in the board, so thank you very much for your service. I appreciate it. We all appreciate you. We appreciate all of you. Just wanted to start there. Moving to Goal 1. LMS staff will take self-assessments of learner strategies, and by June of 2026, those strategies will increase. I do not have data, as Ian did, to present, but I have some anecdotal things. Karen already mentioned some of the consultant hours for PBL Works. She worked hard to get us a grant for that, and we had yesterday we had our PLCs, which meet after school, and I meet with one of the PBL groups, and we talked about our advanced PBL group has already met with Eric, the consultant from PBL Works. We opened that up to our kind of beginners yesterday, and hoping that some of them take advantage of that. We do have some PBL things going on. I wanted to show, this is a sticker that one of our students created. One of our art teachers, Dan Massey, has an LMS merch class as one of our EA choices, so voice and choice is a big part of PBL. And I'd like to thank Tim and all his crew, because there was a lot of behind-the-scenes work to get the finance part worked out on that, but he was very helpful, and I appreciate that. But so kids can create any design in that class, and then they put it online, and anyone can order like a sticker or a blanket or anything to kind of show their students' work. So again, with PBL, public product, authenticity are all part of that. So that's happening. Layla, you asked the question about like how much more PBL is going on. One of the things that I love about PBL is they talk about a dimmer switch approach. So it's not like you're either on or not. You're nudging yourself forward towards that gold standard of PBL. So We have a lot of that going on.
Tom, I don't have your fall presentation. Do you remember what your baseline was? I know you'll review it at the end off the top of your head from your
Don't.
survey. Okay.
Like
can-
the
I can
percentage
send
of
that.
folks using, I
Like,
have that.
yeah, I know you did the self-assessment from that
Yeah.
first one, so.
I can figure that out before we're done tonight. So just to go, so Amy, I was one of the things I wrote down is encouraged us to think outside the box, and that's true. We have teachers just kind of trying new things, trying to push the limits of what we can get done. Mo Marquis is one of our 5th grade STEM teachers. She's doing XRP robots with coding. Thanks to the PTO, they helped her get some controllers for that, so that's a PBL thing. Dylan Hartwick is our 8th grade language arts teacher. He's working on publishing a magazine of dystopian stories that the students created, so that's going to be his kind of public product. I mentioned the LMS merch. And we talk about PBL. I don't want to say my teachers are sick of me mentioning it, but I mention it in my staff emails every week. We talk about it at staff meetings. But that dimmer switch approach kind of means anybody it can be doing it. And literally yesterday I was talking to one of our reading teachers and she was like, I don't know if I'm doing PBL, but I did this. And I was like, yeah, you're having a student create an assessment. That's public product. That's authenticity. And then it's like, well, what about the reflection piece? How do we get down to that? So it's like fine tuning it and getting there. Anybody with questions on goal 1?
We'll probably do it at the end, but if you want to.
Oh, right, okay. Moving on to goal 2, our ELA proficiency. So, so one of the things that's, you have the slide there in front of you, but scheduling of the win block for our 5th grade team in particular, they were doing that yesterday in a team meeting, and I don't know how to say this. I don't know, just like the legitimacy of this operation is like, I don't want to say surprising, but like great just to watch them go through it and literally go through like WIN, what do I need, what each kid's needs, and they're like talking to each other about kids, and it's just what we do a lot all the time anyway, but that win block really has gone a long way to help those students that need it, whether it's additional support with some sort of intervention or the enrichment to just kind of keep them pushing further and further. And our Lit Lab class, I was in there the other day, and they were doing readers theater, and a couple of our students that I know are more reluctant readers that aren't always the most excited to be going to class, especially reading in front of a group, were just reading happily and sharing their experiences with their students, and it's just really nice to see that. And as it says here, our NEWA scores were pretty good this last round, and we're excited about that as well.
And so, Tom, I know, as I mentioned before, to this group, Karen Dubois will start with EC, because when we did our fall goals, we didn't have our NEWA data yet for your baseline, but he will be able to, we'll share with everyone the mid-year growth that we've seen at both elementary schools and middle schools. So there'll be lots to celebrate. So,
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. And then for the attendance piece, when I did this a couple weeks ago, our attendance was up to 94%. And as I mentioned when we went over this back in September, October, like this is a pretty lofty goal. 93% is just fine, but we're of course trying to get kids in the door, and we work hard to do that. Voice and choice, again, it's all tied in together. The PBL, our EA choice classes. This last week we did our first round ever of what's a kind of a scary title, but it's called Arena Scheduling, where we had kids come down to the cafeteria in groups of 20. Lil got to see little bits of that because she was in the building, and they just in real time scheduled, and it was just very interesting to see them like, I want to take PE. Well, that one's full. And then you're just in real time watching them be like, oh, geez. And they have a list like, all right, what about that art class? Like, yeah, you can do it, but this trimester. So it just is truly like giving them the choices of what they're about to take, which was fun, but also very valuable. And this is not exactly what our goal is, but we were just talking about today that our incidents have gone way down as far as ALMA incidents and behaviors and things like that. And we ran a report that shows that our incidents are down 1/3 from this time last year. And I attribute that a lot to this increased voice and choice. Students, again, those reluctant readers, kids that aren't always pumped to be in school in general, I think anecdotally, and the data shows, and the behavior incidents show that we're having less pushback, for lack of a better term. But kids are generally having better days, which has just a wide-reaching approach for the culture, the climate of the school, and that's
Had a parent
about that.
call me today, and a different parent meet with me about 2 weeks ago, and saying their kid was kind of a reluctant learner and loves the EA choices, and felt that sort of changed the child's approach of going to school and being very excited. So I'm glad I got to share that with you, and if they're interested in engaging, they're going to want to be here.
Yeah, that's kind of what we'd hoped was going to happen. Obviously, we didn't know, but yeah, it makes sense. I think I told this story. No, maybe I didn't. I'll just tell a quick story. At the end of trimester 1, there was a kid who was having a real hard day, and finally got to him. I was like, "What's going on, buddy?" And he's like, "Well, I don't get PE anymore." And I was like, well, "Hold on a second." And 20 minutes later, I was going to be like, "You got PE again next trimester." And it was just like, you could just, his whole affect has changed, and being able to get them what they want and what they need, especially PE a lot of times, just to move and get, enjoy their day for a portion of it, changed that day. And, he's been, I'll just say, changed that day. He's been doing pretty well in general.
Does anybody have any questions for Tom? Go ahead, Jessica.
Amy, you mentioned that, and I just want to make sure I understand. You said Karen is going to share are we doing that tonight? Or?
No, it will go to EC first and then put
Okay.
the full board. But
So
so
then
we
I will
had like a
ask-
fall data, and then we had a mid-year point.
Great.
So,
And it came very late this year.
yeah, and so we're very excited about that. But with just scheduling, we want to make sure it goes through the channels and then to the full board. So we'll
Okay.
be able to see some really nice gains with our literacy program. And as I mentioned before, Senator Hassan is reaching out to speak with Mount Leb to do some learning from what's working.
Great. So aligned with that, and I think there was one point on, I think the previous slide to this on increased ELA proficiency. I think that in terms of the middle schools and the elementary schools, one of the things that I've been trying to learn more about and understand a little bit better is what options and engagement we offer for the kids who are and for the cohorts that are performing in those sort of the higher quartiles, like in terms of when we look at those, like where kids are scoring. And I think that, I know that in the high school, you wind up with, you have AP classes, you have sort of like, you have more optionality, I think, for kids who are high achieving in terms of some of those testing areas. And one of the things I really like about the vision of a learner and the learner-centered strategies is that it does seem like it also speaks to all kids and who are kind of everywhere on the spectrum. And I think that I'm really excited to see that there's a lot of high growth and high achievement there. And I'm really curious about what we do in the middle school and the elementary schools to support those kids who might need more challenge, who might be looking for kind of more engagement to maybe move a little bit faster. And I know that's something that is starting to maybe come up a little bit more for some community members. And I was just curious about how the middle school thought about that.
I will speak to it as I can, and Karen, if you want to chime in at all, you please feel free, but I will say...
Maybe you can explain what your win block to.
Yeah.
So, because sometimes people think it's intervention, but when it could be acceleration.
Enrichment, right?
Yeah.
So it's what that kid needs. So if that kid doesn't need enrichment, if the kid doesn't need enrichment, we have enrichment blocks, or enrichment win periods. So like book groups, diving deep into a novel and talking about it, and really diving deep into it. I don't know how to say it better than that. I mean, our teachers in the classroom are always pushing kids to go deeper. So you mentioned the word faster, and that just kind of rings with me because we don't want kids to be in 5th grade and getting through 6th grade content. That creates lots of logistical issues, and we work to get them to go deeper as opposed to farther. So the win block is a way we do that for the enrichment piece, and then in the classrooms, teachers are always differentiating. Karen may speak to that better, or some of our humanities teachers might be able to say more specifically what they're doing to push those kids, but it's a constant balance of kind of meeting every kid where they're at and pushing them to get to that growth and that achievement, like you just mentioned with the DWA scores.
And I think in addition to, when you look at the curriculum and the competencies, they're aligned to progressions. So when you go deeper, you're going into deeper competencies for that piece. So, reading comprehension pieces. So they're looking at more complex text and things like that. And then different with math. So they may be looking at place value or algebraic functions. They just go deeper into that work. So there is I don't know, Karen, am I saying this correctly? You're kind of, we have our class competencies pieces of that. So, especially with ELA and math, they are aligned K to 12. So you can kind of see what algebraic function looks like in kindergarten and what that would be up into those higher classes.
I'm not stepping up to the mic because I feel that you both have answered this quite well, but I'm happy to say more if that would be helpful.
I guess I just would flag that I think that all sounds great, and also I'm curious about how we approach it when that's not sufficient in terms of, I totally hear that it's like deepening, good, strengthening, and also when that's not sufficient. When we have kids who are bored, when we have kids who are in 5th grade but are needing to do 7th grade work, what do we do? Because I think that the idea that is a logistical challenge doesn't feel very well aligned.
I wish I hadn't
with
said
our,
that. I wish I hadn't said that.
I don't
word,
know.
sorry.
I'm very much, trust me, this is not me trying to play gotcha. This is not like a one-time conversation where I'm sort of like, this is not whack-a-mole. This is just a sort of like, we've got this wonderful tool that everybody has worked really hard on and is great. We have this strategic tool, it's great. And, as we move forward and we use it more, like thinking about what the vision of a learner and a student-centered strategy means, I just am sort of trying to push a little bit in a gently loving way towards thinking about all students, including those who might be in the leading edge. And I think that just flagging that in a loving way.
Karen.
So I do have one brief thing that I can share that might be quite reassuring to you. So one of the things I just heard you say was, what do we do when that's not enough? Well, my first question then is, how would we know it's not enough? And one of the ways that we do that is in part of our kind of doubling down on really having a robust data-driven culture among our faculty is to look at tools like the NWEA testing that we do 3 times a year now. So we've increased the frequency with which we do that, in part so that we can look not just at achievement, but also growth. So how would I know if our very academically able students, if it is not enough, as you say? Well, we would see that they continue to be high achieving, but they wouldn't demonstrate growth. That would be a cause for concern. And not to jump the gun, but to just quickly share a little bit of the good news that's coming, we are really pleased to share that we see growth among all quartiles of our students looking really robust this year in ELA and in math. And that's how we know we actually are achieving that. We are challenging all students, including our highest achieving students, at an appropriate level because they are making robust growth. So hopefully that's reassuring to you. There are ways in which we are looking very carefully at all students, including our most high achieving students.
And sorry, Jessica, just to add on to what Karen is saying, we do have a district-wide policy on enrichment and acceleration. It's in the handbooks that talks specifically about this and how it's addressed in elementary schools and how it's addressed 7 through 12 as well. So there is, if parents want to look online for this does exist, and this is helpful to sort of see what is the approach from the K through 12 spectrum, going along with what Karen was just saying, but just sort of there is a document that talks about this specifically, so if people want to follow up on that, I would recommend that they do.
Thank you. That is very helpful, I think, to understand that we track both sort of where students are. I can't remember what the term is for. I know there's one and then there's growth. There's
achievement or
Achievement, right.
proficiency is
Achievement
really
and
the
proficiency
term we
versus
ought to
growth.
we might want to be using.
So I just want to ask a follow-up question about that to make sure I understand. With those tools, it is possible for students to score high on achievement or proficiency, but low on growth?
Yes, and I, in my role, I get quite concerned when I see low growth but high achievement, because that tells me we can't really congratulate ourselves for doing that much. The kid was achieving highly, and they're still achieving highly. I'm not sure as teachers we can know that we've accomplished anything. And so I'm happy to report that does not seem to be a problem right now. We're very pleased with those growth and achievement scores.
And is that measured by, how is the growth measured when students are, how is that measured? How would you be, if you're already sort of in a high achieving area, how would you also be measuring high growth? For instance, that's all.
Again, I'm always hesitant when I overemphasize standardized tests because it is one of a great many ways that we assess students' proficiency and student growth. There are many locally developed ways that we do that. Without getting into test construction too deeply and diverting from this overall picture of strategic plan update that we're all here for, the point of doing a standardized test is that those are normed against like peers nationally. So a student who achieves at a high proficiency level in the fall of third grade would be measured in their growth, how much they improve their scores between fall and winter relative to other students in their same cohort nationwide that achieved the same fall benchmark. I think it would be great if you came and we talked about this at another time, because I do want to make sure that we have time for the rest of my colleagues to present.
That's fair, and I think
the
that,
strategic plan.
but I do appreciate the information about this, and I do think that it is an important part of the strategic plan, so I'm glad that we're having a chance to get a little bit more into it, and I really did want to compliment everybody on the good news, because I have heard a little bit about it, and so seems like there's a lot of things to be excited about, and just wanting to make sure that we understand what those mean in a little bit more detail. So thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Tom? Go ahead, Layla.
I just wanted to comment more than have a question. I'd be interested to see more about what the win block is, because it does seem like that kind of variety and freedom really emphasizes the voice and choice. I think that LMS particularly is really the champion of that aspect of the strategic plan. So I'm always interested in hearing more about what that looks like for our students, because that seems like the first opportunity they're getting to have a lot more ownership in their education. So I think that's really interesting. Thank you.
I would just like to clarify, when they don't have choice on, their EA choice block is where they do, and that was the arena scheduling. When the teachers decide what you need. Maybe it should be called WYN, but it's based off of them knowing their students. So
even that aspect of like that kind of individual attention thing,
Yes.
from my public schooling, that aspect was not there. So
I agree
think
that
that's
it's
a
great. I just
really
wanted to
interesting thing.
clarify
But
that
I
one.
like the clarification. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Principal Whalen could not be here tonight, so I'm going to quickly review her goals for Hanover Street School. Her first goal was around responsive classroom implementation. In September, all classrooms will begin morning meetings with 95% of all staff attending. By January 2026, 100% of the classrooms will be holding morning meetings with all 4 components. She's achieved both of these goals, and they've collected data on whether staff and students feel like morning meetings have a positive impact on schools. So as you know, Responsive Classroom is a tool and a program that is used by both Mount Lab and Hanover Street School. So I'm excited to see that they've made progress there and met their goals. They also had a goal to expand project-based learning. As we said before, a lot of this work had already happened within the school, so it's highlighting and lifting that work. So they set a goal by June 26, all grades will create or expand one project-based learning experience. And these are the projects that each of the grade levels are going to do in there. So they are well on their way to meet their project-based learning goal. Finally, again, going into our academic intervention outcomes, similar to what we just heard from Lebanon Middle School. They are starting to collect data on students that are receiving special education services, Title I math services, and reading interventions. Title I, they are using the NEWA and the STAR. Reading, we have NEWA data and DIBBLES for our younger learners, and special ed, they are also using NEWA. Our next step is, by the end of the year, they're going to start creating reasonable growth targets for students in groups of students with various intervention services. Ms. Whelan really wanted to really look about evaluating our interventions and making sure that they're effective and efficient, and which I think is going to be really important that as we look to review these programs moving forward. So I think Katie's right up here with Mount Lab. Welcome, Katie.
Hit your button. There's the button. There you go.
There we go. Hi. Jessica, thank you for your time on the school board. I've seen you for a number of years now, the preschool in here, so thank you. And Kevin's not here, so thank Kevin. Thank you, guys, for having Kevin on the school board.
Kevin's not here, by the way, because he had to coach the finals of
I
the
know.
basketball game. So that's why. Just want to let the people know that's why he's not here.
Not here. So I had 3 goals, and I was going to talk about our first one, our project-based learning goal. We meet as grade level teams weekly to discuss various things, either NEWA or, I'm sorry, not NEWA, ELA, project-based learning, whatever we're working on at that week. And all of our grades are also either turning up the dimmer switch or have completed a project-based learning project with their class. Both Sky Tetu and Melissa Allen, who are the ones that went last year, have been spending some time meeting with Eric just to kind of keep moving their goals forward or their projects forward. Sky's about to start or finish her second project, and it's around space. All the projects are aligned with the arts and letters programs, except for kindergarten, and kindergarten is going to be doing a flower market aligned with math. It was one of the projects from PBL Works that I shared a bunch of different ones they could, if they were wanting to try a whole project or try as much as they could, there are some frameworks you could use in advance, and they really liked that one. So they are going to do that after they finish all their arts and letters units, because they have 3 modules to do. So that one is going well. They're moving along, and some of them are in the middle of it. The only ones that have finished are Sky's finished hers. So that goal is moving along. Next goal. Oh, arts and letters implementation. So we were piloting a variety of different ELA programs last year, and Mount Leb didn't have a lot of teachers piloting. And so this year, we are all doing the arts and letters, and we do meet about this consistently and make sure we're around the same module per class. So even if students go, I think someone's shutting down. Sorry. So it doesn't matter what class I go into, I'm pretty much going to see the same thing. So just today I was in 2nd grade, and they're learning about the West, and I've been learning a lot about buffalo and bison and moving west and what's different now than what was different then. So it's really cool to see that. And when I meet with the teams, they're always talking about different projects or what they're going to be doing next. So that is also about, it's going to be 100% met, the goal, because all 3 modules will be taught by the end of the year with hopefully a little bit of time for each grade level to have something that they want to do, like that's not tied to arts and letters, which I'm excited about. The 3rd goal, well, I have it here while he's fixing that, was around responsive classroom and closing circles. And I didn't have a survey last time. We had just set the goal, so I did go back and created a survey, and 95% of the students felt heard and felt like their voices were heard back in September. But we have a goal to have 100% of student voices heard, and so we do spend time at the staff meeting either reviewing a closing circle strategy or talking about it and figuring out different ways to engage all of our students so everyone feels that their voice is heard, their questions are answered, and they feel part of the community. So those are the 3 goals that we are on track to do. We, of course, do a lot more than those 3 things at school all the time. But do you guys have any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Katie? Layla?
Yes.
I just wanted to comment, and this goes for Principal Whelan as well. I love hearing about what the project-based learning looks like at these schools. It sounds like it's exciting for everybody, and the idea that the kids are getting to participate in what that looks like is just fun. Sounds fun.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about a little bit more on goal 3 with the peer reflections, or what kind of teacher feedback has looked like.
So peer reflection would be like talking, either going and observing a closing circle in another class. That's a little bit trickier to do, to have them leave their class, especially at the end of the day in an elementary school. It's kind of a little chaotic. You need to make sure all the kids get home the correct way. And they only have about 10 minutes. But we've talked about, like, if you're having a hard time fitting everything in closing circle, what are some ideas you can do? And then the teachers help them. So it's peer feedback as like collegial peer. And then we've also talked in staff meetings, what are some other ideas you can do to engage students in your closing circle. So that's what that looks like. It's a lot of, we have a lot of just collegial sharing at Mount Leb, and so everyone has a voice. I have a really fun story for you guys about PBL. Can I just give you a cute little anecdote, and then I'll stop? So we're, as some of you guys know, we're working on the Wizard of Oz. It's probably why I look a little tired. It's a nice lot of work. Miss Bailey's doing an incredible job. But we're having each of the grade levels work on something for the props. And so every grade level has something that they're doing. And we're trying to organize now like a way that they can all get over to watch a dress rehearsal. But I had a student, I was walking down the other day to dismissal, and he was really sad because he did not get to go to Wizard of Oz practice. And he was just, you know, he was crying. He was like, Ms. Rojo, and just really upset about it. And he was walking with his teacher and myself. And I explained to the student that he wasn't going to be in the Wizard of Oz, but his flowers, that grade is making tulips, is going to be in the Wizard of Oz. And all of the flowers are going to be up there. And the little boy's face, like it was like I changed his whole world. It was so cute to see. And so the teacher afterwards was like, thank you so much, Katie, for like having that opportunity for them, because they all feel included. And I think that's kind of been really powerful at our school, with having a lot more projects, and all kids some of them struggle with learning, but they're part of something. And it was just a neat story. It was really fun. And he's been happy ever since.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Principal Roach, do you want to share your read across your reading week? Maybe you could share your sign-up sheet too. I'm not sure if maybe some board members would like
would
to
love
come
some board
to
members
read
to come.
the Mount Lebanon Lions.
Who should the board members, just with Lil, can you share it out to everyone if I share it with you?
Yep.
Great. I would absolutely be thrilled if you would come. Thank you. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Thanks. I'll turn this.
All right, shall I jump right in? Okay. Goal number 4 is focused on emotional well-being and student success, as you can see. I won't read through the slides, right? So why don't we go to the next slide, please? So this is
Ben Nestor, Director of Student Services.
Got it.
So we have have someone online, so I want to make sure.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is not an exhaustive list of supports we offer our students in the area of mental health and just general emotional well-being. You can see the bullet points on the left are a little more specific. A lot of these are tied to individuals, whereas there's also a lot of embedded supports and just a lot of good work that our teachers do in particular, every single day in the classroom. So I just want to make a point that that's not necessarily reflected here, but students are with their classroom teachers, at least at the elementary school level, almost the entire day, and they do a lot to help our students feel welcome and so on. Why don't we go to the next slide? So here I tried to capture a snapshot of services that we provide to students. Again, in the interest of not going on and on, this is really focused on one-on-one mental health services that students receive, but doesn't necessarily capture like school counseling lessons when guidance counselors or school counselors go into the classroom and teach lessons at the elementary school level, for instance, and just a lot of the day-to-day consult that they do. Also being a part of student service teams and things of that nature, that's a little bit harder to quantify. But I think this does give us some numbers to work with as we try to measure the effectiveness of our mental health services, right? Which is, I think the main goal here is to establish baselines, set goals, and then inform our programming down the road. Let's move to the next one. Thank you. Again, similarly, I won't touch on each of these targets, but we have roughly 41% of our students are engaging in some sort of deliberate service that supports their, social growth and well-being. That's, again, I just want to say too, sometimes when it comes to like mental health in particular, it's often fairly difficult to measure with a great deal of accuracy when you have a student population of 1,700 students. It's very fluid. It's also very much based on the individual's sense of well-being too. So that's hard to quantify that for an organization like this. If the board agrees and the superintendent agrees, I would like a little bit of license maybe in the future to tweak these as I have more time with the mental health team. Had a lot of great conversations with folks, in particular Amy Marcoux. We spoke again today about this. She had a lot of great ideas that are not reflected here, but if that's okay, we'll take a peek at that later. All right. I can go on for as long as you like, Amy. It's your prerogative.
I think we'll open it up for questions. I know you have one of the harder goals to try to quantify and set these baselines too, because we'd like to see probably less incidences and more support. So it depends how we're going to frame that piece too. And mental health is really tricky. And I'm really excited about the partnerships with Cartwheel that high school mentioned. And we do have a robust resource for our students. But I think it's an area that we're going to need to continue to look at and develop and kind of reflect on. So I think it's a great idea to kind of keep this kind of fluid. And these numbers are probably the first time people just kind of seeing these and how many people are accessing things too. So
I just have a question about the bar graph.
Yeah.
So the first one, you average number of students served per week, and that's distinct students, or is that visits? That's the number of students that are seen, or the number of visits per week?
It's primarily the number of students,
Okay.
district-wide.
Yeah.
So if you look at the sentence on the bottom that kind of qualifies
I read
this
that.
a little bit,
Yeah.
it kind of just articulates it a little bit.
No, that's perfect.
more,
So,
yeah.
I mean, what I wanted to say, just to sort of clarify that I wanted to make sure I was talking about students. I mean, 694 visits per week out of a district of 1,600, roughly a little bit over 1,600. It's kind of a remarkable number, and I think remarkable in a good way, not remarkable in a bad way, right? That we're seeing almost half of our students every week are being supported in these ways. And so I think that that's a really, it's like Amy was saying, if we're talking about incidents of behavior, that's different. But if we're talking about mental health supports, I think that's a really telling and important metric. And so I just wanted to call that out. It's a big number.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you.
Jessica and then Layla.
So thank you for the presentation. I think that as you guys are continue looking at the way that you use the data that you're collecting and everything else, as you're saying, maybe tweaking that as you go forward, I would call out that I really like the something that we were just talking about with Karen, which is sort of the pairing of two aspects where, for example, in your intervention target, you say 10% reduction in mental health related special ed referrals due to interventions delivered pre-referral by the end of year 3. So I think, again, sort of like saying this thing is going down because of a thing that we did, which is a really, not because, for example, like you can get a reduction in mental health services by providing less of them, for example. So so I think that in the same way that Karen was just pointing out, we're looking at sort of achievement and growth. We're looking at referrals due to our interventions. I know that's something that Principal Whelan has also talked about in terms of they're trying to draw a lot of attention towards what things are moving in the right direction because of a thing that we are doing in terms of the academic interventions. So just as everyone is looking at these and sort of working with the data, I would call those out as being really great examples of like things that, especially as a board member, feel very real, feel very like really strong evidence of success rather than just sort of data. Which I know that's not meant to be a criticism of anything. You have to gather information in order to then do something with it. But those are feel really solid and feel really, they come across. So
I mean,
great.
I kind of see those as perhaps like a representative sample, right? That you can then use to, speculate on the larger, intervention. I think the way I said. Just one more thought, and then will take any other questions. Too, I just want to, make a point that mental health and the work we do in that area is certainly not in a silo. I think this is, everyone knows this, but I'll just say it for the good of the order, is that, as students' academics and behavior, improves, they feel better about themselves, there's self-efficacy there, and so their mental health needs go down, right? And so it's like all the other aspects of the strategic plan, all factor into this big dynamic reciprocal wheel where there's a two-way cause and effect between all of those things. Does that make any sense what I'm saying? Okay. All right.
I know that it is the big picture. And just kind of in the spirit of that, I'm curious, as a parent of someone at Hanover Street, I know that social emotional learning is part of what they do. That's a critical part of their day, of their week, and that's something as a parent that makes me very excited. I'm curious of what kind of things maybe we can look at even at those kinds of levels of what does just the overall kind of social emotional learning that's happening in elementary school, and are we tracking how that's going between and transitioning to middle school? Middle school has its own challenges. Are we tracking what that looks like between, and then, when they're in high school, still having that support? I think that's why this, as much as we're starting to treat them like young adults, having those supports at all levels is really important. But I would, in this very tangled web, I wonder if there's a way to kind of look at these transitional elements of what's the foundation. When I was growing up, we didn't have social emotional learning, and I think as one of those parents who loves it and is very excited about it, I feel very grateful our district does put an emphasis on that. So just kind of looking at that while you're piecing all of this together.
I think you can bring that to your team, Ben, to kind of look to see like that metrics, and like as we build out more data dashboards to kind of look at like how to track that too, and those nuances of what does it look like in elementary and what's working, right? And then what's that transition look like in middle school, and then in high school when there's when students are starting to either self-advocate or finding that person in the building they're comfortable to share and to get that referral. So I think each level has those nuances about developmentally too. I think that we can sort of kind of flesh out within your group.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I love when my daughter comes home and she mentioned something about that she loved about counseling. So
Good.
Any other questions for Ben? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, next up is adult learning and literacy service with Colby Price, and then on deck, I believe it's Tim?
Good evening. Yeah, I'm gonna have to read mine. I can't read that. Our first goal was examine and share the current state of adult education in the district, which we've done. We've put up some numbers there. These are ever-evolving numbers, and since this was submitted a couple weeks ago, we're now at 75 total students, 10 of whom are studying for the high set. A couple of those had come over from the high school upon turning 18 and decided to pursue the high set with us. So one of the challenges that we're going to have moving forward, and as these numbers continue to increase, and I hope to increase, is to continue to provide the same level of service to people that come to us and to maximize our resources. We can go to the next slide. Yep. And then our next goal, number 2, was survey the community to determine needs and analyze the effectiveness of current programming. Can we go to the next slide, actually? One of the things people sometimes ask me is if you look at the numbers there at the bottom, measurable skill gains, those are obtained by pre-testing before they start whatever course they're going to do, and then when they hit approximately 60 hours, they post-test, and then we measure the results there. I think 2 of the projects I'm the most excited about that we've participated in, we were participating in a couple of studies with Dartmouth University. One of the ones was to increase healthcare literacy, and so we had some medical students who come to our class. They just finished up, actually. But that's enabled us to lay the foundation of a healthcare literacy curriculum, which we'll be implementing going forward. And then we're also working very closely right now with ELL teachers in the school district. And next week, we're starting a pilot program to improve the experience of ELL families. And we're going to take 10 parents, and they're going to be using a platform that we have that they can self-study, and they'll be meeting with a tutor every week. And the idea moving forward is to offer that to every ELL family starting next year. And if we could move to the next slide, please. And then looking farther into the future about what we'd like to do in the next year, I'm excited about pursuing an IET grant, which is Integrated Education and Training. It involves kind of getting a pulse of the local business community and seeing what their needs are and balancing those needs with our students, their adult education and literacy skills, and then workforce preparation. We already have several partnerships right now with some key organizations, Upper Valley Business Alliance, New Hampshire Works, Work Ready New Hampshire. And we're in a position in the near future where we can offer courses in soft skills and workforce preparation and pre-apprenticeship. But the idea moving forward in the next year is to establish more partnerships with organizations like Dartmouth Health and local engineering companies, and seeing what the positions of need are for those companies, and hopefully setting up a course so we can prepare people to enter into those jobs. LNA is one that's we've already identified as a big local need. And that's all I have, so if anybody has any questions.
Any questions for?
I want to thank Colby, who, about a year?
9 months.
9 months.
Yeah.
9 months.
You've done an incredible job with that department in that time and growing our numbers. And it's really exciting to see the digital literacy course and all these other offerings that we were not able to do before. And in addition, expanding to those training skills, that classes. I think it would be a great benefit for the city of Lebanon and the larger catchment area. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I think this this experiment to sort of improve the experience of ELL families, the sort of pilot that you're doing, that's an excellent idea. I think it's really great to connect the ELL work, the English language learner work that's happening in our elementary schools with the families, because that is always sort of, when you are the child of in a school and you're learning English at a faster rate than your parents, it changes your interaction with them. And I think it's great to sort of try and make the families go along at the same pace together. That's a genius idea. So I hope that that works out and that we can expand it further. It's a really great resource that we're providing. So thank you so much. As I just echo Amy, this is hugely different than what was there when you came in, and it's a short amount of time. That's really remarkable. So
Thank you.
kudos.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna just talk about sort of the business office, sort of what, like, my singular focus is, and people that still fall under my purview are gonna talk next. So we'll just talk about the budget sort of stuff. It's the same goal, operational decisions through the lens of a Lebanon vision of a learner. And really, I talked about in this slide is about the budget process. It's really a SALT project led by Amy, certainly. And this year's budget process internally to us was, before we got to the board, was vastly different. We examined pretty much everything through the lens of what is best for the student and can we do things better. I mentioned in here the reformatting summer school, which is still, I know, still not set in stone yet, but the discussion that I had with Ben and Amy and I had with Ben and Karen was really about like, what are we doing? And yeah, there was a cost element. We think we can do it better, but even the services we're providing need to be more effective. So it was a huge discussion around that. Staffing models to better utilize resources. Then Jack and I and Amy talked a lot about really the presentation. So the presentation you saw, the deliberative session, even the annual report was reviewed and studied several times and reformatted and different charts and graphs. And so hopefully you saw a better presentation. We'll keep working every year to make it better. And really the lens of what do we, instead of just taking our social studies budget or our math budget and doing the same thing next year, but really examining year by year, what do our students need and how's our staffing serve that? It might lead to reductions or increases in other places. It was really, for me, it was actually a very welcoming process to be it was a much more dynamic process, and it was something we haven't done here before.
Great. Anybody have any questions for Tim? Okay, great. Next, human resources.
Hello, everyone. Xavier. I'm the Director of Human Resources for the school district. So the Human Resources Office, our goal was to support Goal 3 of the strategic plan, mainly involving around increasing the recruitment efforts and the overall retention of our staff. So I broke it down in two different sections. We have significantly expanded on the district's recruiting efforts by working with the company we use, Power Schools. They essentially run our candidate tracking system, which is where folks come in, apply for a job, and we do a lot of the intake. And we've worked with them to basically integrate job platforms such as Indeed and LinkedIn and stuff like that. We're working on adding LinkedIn, Indeed. Right now, everything we post there goes out there too, which has been great because it has allowed for expanded visibility of our different job postings and such. We have also worked to create several partnerships with local and regional higher learning institutions such as colleges around the Upper Valley, New York State, and Vermont, basically by working with them to, whenever it's applicable, post those high-end jobs or teacher jobs on their career support job board. So folks that are about to get out in the world and become a teacher can know of us. We have done a similar thing with local and regional union and school administration groups such as the New Hampshire School Administrators Association, or they go by New Hampshire Ed Jobs. We post a lot there. We use the NEA job board too. And through, thanks to Karen Dubois, last year we began also working with the UVEI job board there. So that's been extremely helpful. And then we've also continued to attend college job fairs whenever we can. Just get out there, present ourselves, put the school district on the map. As far as retention, this been a ongoing effort that just planting seeds when I first joined the district 5 years ago, and it's thanks to the support of Tim and Amy, we've kind of built that out now by creating a fully fleshed out HR department with different resources. We've created a bunch of process guides, in-house personnel counseling for our staff to support our diverse workforce around the clock. Sometimes I'll get emails about performance issues or personal issues in the middle of the night, and I want to make sure people can go somewhere before I can connect with them in the morning, so they don't feel like they're flying alone or something like that. We've also worked with our health insurance partners. We've had what we call a employee assistance program, our EAP. Basically, it's a suite of different resources from mental health help, financial counseling, benefit counseling. We have expanded on that. It's part of the service contract we have with those folks, so it's a no additional cost to the actual school district. Folks can mostly use a lot of those services free of cost to them, and then you cross a threshold that's when your insurance kicks in, and they can also essentially maximize that. And then something we begin working in our office probably around October last year, we were approached by Alice Peck-Day. They said they identified the district as an institution that's been doing a lot to improve our whole EAP offering, and they wanted to bring us in the fold and include us into their employee assistance program that they offer for folks that work at the hospital. So we're building out essentially an additional mental health resource for folks that right now is a no cost to the district. It will be a no cost to any of our folks. It's a finite sort of a resource, because we're also have to be mindful it's also for them. So we're currently working out how that's going to look, how many hours per week. We secured 2 therapists. It's going to include therapy on site at the multi-specialty clinic, or a new concept where folks can go into a farm and meet with a actual therapist and include animal support resources, just things like that. So that's pretty much all I have, what we've been working on.
Thanks. Any questions for Xavier?
I was wondering how many, with the EAP, with the Employee Assistance Program, how would you feel it's being utilized? Is it being underutilized? Is it something that you feel like employees have a good kind of awareness of? I know there's only so many hours of a day that will always affect our staff when it comes to some of these resources, but just kind of your general sense of that utilization.
Absolutely. It all starts with getting the word out there. When we began exposing our staff to this, it became clear it wasn't very well known. And a lot of times, actually the majority of times in my experience, it's not always because job-related stress. is at-home stuff that folks bring into the office, and then it kind of compounds with that. So I think to elaborate a little bit, basically, when we do our yearly open enrollment process, that's part of our packet. It's basically packaged with that. There's no clock on this, but it's another opportunity to get the word out there. And then what we've seen is, by getting the word out there, folks have become more comfortable in reaching out. It's important to me, as the director of the Human Resources team, that people understand that there's no stigma when you're going through something. That it is a resource that I want folks to use, because, life is tough. We all go through stuff, and it's been helpful. I've seen a lot of engagement as folks get more comfortable, and it's been good.
Yeah, I'm hopeful and interested to hear what the APD opportunity ends up looking like. Thank you.
Yeah, we're hoping to finalize that sometime this year. So,
Thank you. Any other questions? I think we're good. Thank you very much.
All right, John Kerber is up, and followed by Tyler. And coming in last will be Jeff Rooney, closing us out for this. Thank you. Welcome, John.
Thank you. I'm John Kerber, Facilities Director. So we have 2 items in our year 1 under Goal 5, analyze operational decisions through the lens of vision of a learner. A lot of what we do is kind of behind the scenes. I guess you could make the argument that it's all, student impact, but it's kind of tough to say sometimes when we're, some of these operational things we do. We have been working a lot on our contracts and our kind of reviewing our operations, trying to make improvements, both to save money and to improve our effectiveness. This year we've continued the process we started last year to have our maintenance team do the district salting in-house. That saved a lot of money. In the past, it was done through our snow contractor. This year, we've entered into a purchase agreement with the city, which will begin next season, to basically be included on their salt purchasing agreement that they have, which will even bring our costs down more. Should bring them down by about half of what we're paying this year. So we're excited about that. We've spent a lot of time reviewing our custodial supplies, both our order processes and our pricing through vendors. We did kind of an RFP, changed suppliers, and have been working with our team to establish kind of par ordering systems, reducing overstock inventory, pulling inventory from around the district when we're ordering things to bring costs down, and we've seen a good bit of savings so far. We're also putting out more RFPs this year and continuing to work on that to try to get the best pricing possible for some of these contracts. We currently have a landscaping bid out. We went out to bid for a snow contract this year. We're bidding out more projects, as many projects as we can. So it's helpful for us both to just see what the market rates look like and also make sure we're getting, the best price we can. Capital improvement plan work is ongoing. It's a, large project that we're continuing to try to get our hands around. We are nearly done with our asset inventory, and now kind of from there looking at, okay, how do we assess the condition of these items in our inventory and make decisions about what needs to be done first. We've replaced 2 of our old maintenance vehicles and 2 of our custodial machines in the past year. Several kitchen appliances, a roof has been done, a water heater. So things that, otherwise we may be sinking money into maintaining old equipment. We're trying to replace it. And, also gathering proposals for CIP related items. So we're doing a cost analysis now for the high school Hanover Street parking lots to get a sense of what that might look like. Lots of other projects we're planning to do. We're getting cost proposals now so we can budget, effectively and tackle some of these things before it needs to come out of the capital reserve fund. So.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments for John? I just wanted to say that, yes, your department often feels like it's behind the scenes. We don't see a lot of this. Sometimes people don't see, but I did want to, in general, your staff is superb, but in particular this year when we had an asbestos issue, it was your staff that caught that first and was able to sort of quickly allow us to solve that problem. And so I think that's just one example, a big example, but a normal example of what your staff does. So we're really grateful for all the work that they put in behind the scenes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay.
Thanks.
Hi, Tyler Shenna. I'm the Director of Information Technology. Our goal was around effective communication to enhance partnerships among schools, families, and the wider community, and specifically focused around the launch and development of our new school and district web pages. Post-launch of our website, we've continued to collaborate with Jack Rooney to monitor and update the new website, based on user feedback and community needs. One example of this is the addition of the new budget doc section to the website to kind of help us better effectively communicate that information out to the community. And the next goal item that is currently in progress is the development of our strategic plan dashboard, which we expect to be live in March, which will allow us to kind of regularly update the community via the website based on strategic plan goals and the progress that we're making towards those goals. So, happy to take any questions on those things.
Any questions for Tyler? Yeah, the feedback that I have received personally has been on the website has been really good. I think we're obviously still building as we go, but in particular, people have mentioned that the budget doc section was much more clear. So kudos to both you and Jack on making that section accessible and apparent and easy to get to, and so we appreciate that. But
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at last we arrive at the end. I'm Jack Rooney. I'm the Director of Communications and Community Relations for the district, and I have kind of action items under 2 strategic plan goals, the first and the last, numbers 1 and 6. Under the first is just integrating the vision of a learner within student experiences, and the way that I can do that in my role is by kind of using a common language. And so that is why in things like the monthly superintendent newsletter, when there are student spotlights, we're using language from the pillars of the vision of a learner. We're celebrating effective and collaborative communicators and critical and creative thinkers. We're deliberately using that language so that it over time becomes more and more familiar. And I really look for any opportunity to include that sort of language in any of our communications, so that even if you don't know you're reading about the strategic plan, you're reading about the strategic plan. So that's the main way that I am working to try to integrate the vision of a learner within all of our students' experiences. And then next slide and last slide, strategic plan goal 6 is really just the one that I feel I have almost sole ownership over, which is effectively communicating with the wider community and with families and schools. And so pretty much everything I've done since I started here in July has been working toward that. As Tyler mentioned, we're constantly working on the website and adding to it and changing it based on feedback that we get from parents, from staff, from students, because that really is a really effective tool that we have to communicate. I've also been kind of building my own systems for tracking the data that we can access around communications. So as you may know, we use SMORE for newsletters, and that has data that we're able to kind of track how many people are viewing it, how much time are they spending on the newsletters, how much, how many links are they clicking within the newsletters, that sort of stuff. And then obviously our social media, a lot of those platforms have built-in metrics as well that I've kind of started developing some baselines that then hopefully we can kind of set some goals around. But with that, I will leave it there, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jack? Comments?
I want to thank him. He helps us put together, if you've noticed since he's been here, our presentations are formalized. They're using the similar slide decks. Our communications going out are, I would just, way improved. I can't think of a better way to articulate it. He's been a great asset to our SAU team and to help the schools as well.
Go ahead, Layla.
I also wanted to offer the feedback of that the PTO outreach to check in on communication needs seems like a really great proactive kind of check-in. It seems like the PTO folks generally know everything going on, so it seems like a good resource that you're already tapping into to understand how things are going. And I feel like as a parent, I've definitely noticed your presence this year, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I have kind of had my eye on like the kind of PTO research, or not PTO outreach, and like further research for this springtime, just since I've now had time to just actually get my bearings and know what I'm doing. And now I can ask like specific questions too of groups. I have enough information about what I'm doing to know what I don't know, and so I can go and leverage the community resources we have to help bridge the gap there.
Our PTOs are always willing to answer all questions, so they'll
Great.
be ready and waiting for you to come talk to them. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and that concludes the mid-year review of our strategic plan. Again, thank you all for being here this evening. I know the week before February break, you guys are probably all exhausted, but thank you for your time, work, and your reflection in your department. So,
Yes, thank you all very much. We appreciate y'all being. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you don't want to. It's fine. You can feel free to leave. But you can stay if you want. We are happy to have you stay as well. We're moving on to our business administrator update, which is Tim.
Wanted to provide a document as to the SAU building use working group that started way back in the summer. I suspect most of this is already well known to those of you, especially if you've been involved in the city task force, but just to put it on paper and bring up any questions you might have. The document shows who met at our first meeting, and we actually only had one official meeting before things got sort of sidetracked. We kind of took a zigzag road. But you can see the members. It was a broad swath of the community of people from the school and the city, and just residents too. We thought there were 4 things we wanted to think about, which is continue using the SAU just like it is, maybe sell the building to a private developer, close the SAU, leave it vacant for some use in the future, and move somewhere else, and then consolidate the SAU staff to about 1.5 floors and have the city use the other half. That's what we started off on, sort of working through in August when we got off the meeting, and then as most of you know, or all of you know, since then some other ideas came up, including review of the suitability of the SAU building for daycare, which had been done before but was done again, and then an additional consideration of sharing space with city services that came out really in the task force meeting, and talked a lot about that with city folk. So this report just tries to show you some of the considerations behind each option. So we could keep using the SAU as we've done since 2012. I have a table there of what it costs the last few years, basically operate the building, not counting personnel. There's no facilities personnel. There's a half-time custodian who cleans the SAU, and if not cleaning the SAU, that custodian's doing something else. So there's really no staffing involved, so that's why it's these elements. And you can, in my opinion, $100,000 in '24, $96,000 in '25, and we budgeted 126 now, and with John's efforts, we went down a little bit in the budget that just got approved. So the point is that, in my opinion, it's not a heck of a lot of money to operate the SAU. Less than people think, I guess is what I'm saying. However, there are several capital improvements that have to be done over time, and there's a list of stuff from the cap reserve plan. Went over that with John. $2 million worth of stuff that we have identified needs to be done, and this is not a value judgment on how priority of any of these things, like the hot water pipe installation is a lot of money. It's just from our CIP. It's not intended to be a evaluation or a rank order. So even though we stay there, there's money that has to be spent every year, and a significant amount of money that needs to be spent over the next period of years. Option 2, we could see if we could sell it. Shouldn't assume that someone would buy it, but we did have a real estate firm come through and evaluate the building for development into something else. The realtor estimated the building could sell for up to $2.4 million. There are barriers, including you have to by law have to offer for sale to a charter school. The SAU needs a space. The gym and auditorium. Again, I'm saying things that we all know. The gym and auditorium has a huge benefit to the community and the school. The character of the West Lebanon community may be affected by the change to residential use, but certainly a plus is it would help a little bit in the housing scarcity in the city. We'll get to conclusions in a little bit. Option 3, we could winterize it and find somewhere else to go. It does not cost a lot to winterize it. About $10,000 is what we estimate. Basically, you blow out all the water lines and kind of good. However, you lose the space. CIP stuff still needs to be done. Like, just because the building's there and not being used doesn't mean the roof doesn't go bad. And the public perception of a big building that's been on the hill for 200 years almost, just sitting there idle is one that the group committee pointed out would not be good. Option 4 was starting with the plans that were designed, and again, it's just a starting point. In 2012, Banwell came up with a plan that would actually share the space with the city. It's something less than the city talked about a few years ago when the city wanted to renovate the building to turn it into a full rec center. It's sort of a mid-ground. So in the plans, which are in my office and anybody can review, or I can email them to you, again, the SAU would be on the 3rd floor and basically a couple rooms on the very bottom floor, on my floor. The middle floor would be occupied by, in this plan, the rec department. And they would have space for a teen room and some other things. They wouldn't have a full-fledged rec center, but they would have some space to do stuff. I talked to Ingrid about that. The renovations, she said, would be $200 to $250 per square foot. An estimated 10,000 square foot SAU space would be $2 million to $2.5 million. The city renovation price tag would be unknown. I didn't do a lot of research on that because I'm working for the school district. The renovation costs are significant, so this kind of option, unless we have the money in a cap reserve when you wanted to do that, it would require issuing a bond. We don't have $2 million in a cap reserve fund now. I shouldn't say so absolutely. You could always put it in a budget, but you get my point. Probably the best way to do it would be a bond. It is important to note that the LMS bond for this building expires at the end of FY31, which seems so far away, but it's only 5 years. So conclusion, updated in February. We came out of that really trying to hunt down an option 4 and sort of presenting to you that the board should really move forward with coming up with a longer-term plan with the city to fully renovate that space into something that's usable. And you'll see, if you haven't read it already, that still seems to be the best goal longer term. But that's like a 6 years for the bond. I put 8 to 10 in here. I think it's a plan that it makes a lot of sense and can be a lot of good to the city and the school district, but it does require money from both sides, and the challenge to that is that the boards change all the time. So you guys might like it, and you start this plan for 5 years from now, you're going to renovate, and then the board changes over. So it's a challenge, I recognize that. But in the meantime, there is sort of an option for a light that we think really works, which was brought up at the city task force meeting, which is we've had a good experience with the fire department upstairs on the 3rd floor, and we could vacate a few more rooms on that 3rd floor and have some city services locate with us in the SAU. We would charge them rent, but it could be done really with no money, little money for renovation. The fire department has lived there for a year now, just fine. 2 city departments, IT and Rec, have been approached about doing that. Honestly, the report back from both those departments was lukewarm at best. I'm not sure what IT said. Rec, I talked to Paul separately, and he did make a point for their case is that they're in the square 50 times, back and forth at least 50 times, 50 different events. So they go back and forth to the office, which is right off the square. And he wasn't crazy about the efficiency of moving to basically a similar space, but in West Lebanon. So obviously I can't make the decision, but that made sense. And I don't know what the IT, they have a long-term lease they just signed, but we still think that departments like that coming over makes a lot of sense. If we can convince the city they should do that. I would say not on here and not really assessing the longer-term use of the building, but we are finding a use for the fire department space, the rowing club, which has been in and out of our buildings for years, is homeless again, so they're coming back into our building to row, which is good. They've been there before, and then they found better space. So we're happy we can be an asset to the community. As you know, on the ballot, the voters are going to be asked if we can enter into a lease agreement with the Boys and Girls Club or start talking about it. That is on the eastern, it's still the SAU facility, but it's on the eastern, the eastern side of it. In view of the committee, the best long-term option remains option 4. However, given current restraints, we recognize that option 4 should be considered a longer range option. In the meantime, exploring ways to utilize the asset better would help Lebanon's residents realize cost savings. So the next steps, pending on the results of the March vote, we talk about the long-term lease, continue to operate the SAU as we are, while we continue to push the city to co-locate with us. And the committee was pretty adamant. I don't think, we haven't formally met again, but most of the members of the committee are involved in the city task force or some other negotiation. So the long-term partnership is still the way to go. I just lay it out there that it might be good to make a vision statement, but I recognize the political realities of getting there. It's going to require money from both sides of the fence, and a commitment by future boards to hold to those same ideals.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Tim?
So thank you very much for the report, and thank you to everybody who was involved in this committee and the work on it. It's been a long time coming to have an update on this, and it's much appreciated. Just two things that I would call out, I guess. One is that I think I suspect that the renovation cost that's proposed here or suggested estimate of $2 to $2.5 million is in addition to the $2 million in
Yes, cap reserve.
In
CIP.
items that are also needed. So
Yeah.
I guess I would just sort of say that I think we have to keep that in mind, that actually the cost of actually continuing to occupy this building and utilize it in a different way is more like closer to $4.5 to $5 million probably. And I guess I'm curious about where the $200 to $250 a square foot number came from, just as we go forward, because in my experience, talking to folks, that's way low for the Upper Valley. That may be for this kind of project. I don't know. I haven't seen the.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Ingrid from Banwell, who gave me that number. It seemed low. I didn't question it because I'm not an architect.
Yeah.
But she does, as you might know, Banwell does schools all over the state and is an Upper Valley landmark. So I I trust that number,
would
at
be
least
great.
for planning.
If that number was real, that
Yeah.
would be a great number. It's not a number that I have heard anywhere else in terms of Upper Valley projects, which doesn't mean anything. It might be accurate, but I just would call that out, that as we would move forward, that would be a
Yeah.
big question in my mind.
Someone asked me what our square footage cost for our renovation this last week, and I haven't done a calculation, so that could be another data point, what it cost us for ours.
Yeah. So just something to know. I mean, I think it's great that we have these numbers. It's so much better to have a place to start from, and also they would be unlikely to go down. And so I think it would be great if we had an answer. I think the reality is that in terms of yay, this is, a really thing we can do now, or thing we can do in the near term. And also that was never really necessarily going to be super likely. And so I think this is a good sense of where things are. I'm really glad to hear that the conversation has shifted more towards the recognition that any use of the space going forward needs to be a joint project with the city, that needs to be financed very much by not just the school district. Because again, I think that while you're totally right, and I really appreciate the information about the running costs of the building are very low, the running costs are not the costs of running the building. And I think that we just need to wrap our heads around in a consistent way that these, the $2 million in repairs that need to be done on the building, those are the real costs of running the building. And that's what we need to be looking at going forward in terms of when we look at renting the space out or sharing space with other city departments, et cetera. Those are the things that need to be shouldered by more than just the district, because again, I would argue that there's pretty limited direct student benefit to those costs. And so I think we want to be really careful about them. Community-wide, et cetera, savings, all real, but that is different than money budgeted from the school district that isn't going to student outcomes. So again, I think this is a great report. I think the thinking that's gone into it is really solid. I'm really grateful for that, and I will follow the developments here with attention. So thank you to everyone involved.
Go ahead, Jen.
I'm just curious, thank you, Tim. Thank you, working group. What are you looking for us? What would be the next steps? Are you looking for this board to take some action, or what are we looking for?
I think the direction that you guys gave us to explore these options and present a report, I think at this point, we do have this March vote coming up, and we do have ongoing conversations with the city with our joint task force. Our last meeting was canceled because of the snow. We do have one on March 10th. I think we need to have those conversations. If this board, makes a vote that we want to sell, I think that's a conversation that would have to come up, and from there, there's a process for obviously to do so.
Yeah, I think outside the selling thing, which is steps that have to be done legally, I think that the city was heavily involved, in the beginning of this, and since September, the city's been heavily involved in sort of the conversation of what to do with that space. I think if it gets on the city task force and stays in front of them, that will be both long-term, but even short-term. Don't let one of your departments, city, sign another lease until you talk about whether they can come over to the SAU and pay less. That lease was just signed in August, from what I understand. So the conversation needs to be front and center, and I would love to see the task force talk about this almost every agenda instead of
Here.
And the task force would like to do that too. So,
to your point, Jessica, I'm looking at, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, but when I look at it, I'm looking at, 2 million in reno, which would probably be more. Then you're looking at probably an additional 2 million or more to reno the part that the city would need to use. Then you're looking at 2 million in the capital reserve, just maintenance of the building. So we're at 6.1 kind of over time. That's a lot. And I think they're going to run away really fast.
Yeah, I think it's it's important that, Tim put this together, that we share these docs with them so they understand too of like what other CIP projects that they have. And they, when we talk to them, they're very committed to keep that gym and auditorium. But just looking at the real numbers for the community, and what does it take to run and maintain that building.
Well, and it goes back to that conversation that we always have, right? This building was supposed to have an auditorium. The high school, we tried to put an auditorium. That's one of our only auditoriums, right? Oh, wait, it is our only auditorium, and let's use the Opera House. So, I think the board, whether it's this one or the next one, is going to have some hard decisions around this building and what to do.
I would just really encourage the future board members, the folks who are still going to be on the board, and the future board members to really keep this report kind of in their hands, because I think that, in my mind, any amount of money that gets spent on the SAU on the building going forward needs to have a very strong eye put on it, not because it's not valuable space, but because don't throw good money after bad. Sort of like, we should not be continuing to put money into this, to put large sums of money into this building unless there is a plan and a sense of, or at least a growing consensus from the city that is sustained over time, that there's going to be a shared future for this. Because I do not look at these numbers. There's no part of this that I think we should be looking at and saying, yes, this is a reasonable path forward, is that the school district continues to shoulder this responsibility on its own for the next decade. I don't think that that's if we wanted to put these options another way, we could say, what should we not do? And maybe that's another way to think of it, is we should not continue to invest a lot of resources into this building over the next decade without it being a shared resource. I think it's too much money. It's going to continue to build. I'm honestly these numbers I think are very low. That's not a criticism of anybody who's been involved in putting them together. I just think
it's $2015. No, I'm just joking.
I mean, I think that they are. I think they're a great start to give us a sense of scale, but they are not going. Everything gets expensive every year, more expensive every year. So I think each year we put it off, these numbers go up. So I think we really. I'm glad the district task force is there, and I think it makes sense to me for the city school district task force, at least on our side, to basically consider this to be their vision, their mission.
I think one of the things that has happened this year, and again, it's happening simultaneously with this work group, is that the role of the city task force has changed dramatically and is changing as we go forward, and so it's becoming less of less of an email and name only task force and more of an actual force that does tasks. And so we're, this is as opposed to what it was before. So that relationship is changing and strengthening. And so I think you're right. This is definitely one of the things, if not the thing, that we are jointly interested in, and jointly interested in keeping it at the forefront. I will say, having been on that task force now, and even in the new version of it, we are definitely working with different timelines and speed of work, right? We are a bureaucracy, they are a bureaucracy, and together we are 3 times as slow as we are apart. So it means that it's going to be a very long-term process, and I think you're right that it is important to keep these things center of mind, front of mind as much as possible, because I think but now I also feel like it's something that we can achieve, we can work on together, because we are working together. So I hear your point and agree. Layla?
I wanted to share my thoughts. Thank you to everybody who worked on this, but just from looking at this report, I couldn't possibly agree with Jessica more that every dollar we spend on the SAU is a dollar our students aren't getting. So to me, as much as I appreciate and understand the recommendation, this is a long-term thing. I think I'm going to be really relying on who's on the city district task force to really communicate and really understand that if we are doing this buy-in, that is us taking a gamble away from our students that the city is equally buying into this. I think that we should be very, very timid in just doing this CIP until we know that, because to be honest, option 2 says we $2.4 million, but whenever you look at the swing of what we might be sinking into the building, that adds way higher. I do not really have an issue with that unless, as much as I hear that there are different departments that aren't leaping into the rental space. If that doesn't change, I think that's going to be the first flag that we just need to move to option 2.
One thought that one thought that I have is that because we're talking about a longer timeline here, obviously we're not going to do this right this second. We're looking for the city buy-in and like changes in bureaucracy over time, et cetera. One thing I wonder if we could, the task force could look at is there a way that we could establish a fund or something that the city could put money into each year as part of their budgeted process? And that might be a way that we could establish sort of a long-term, like, yes, look, we're all committing to this. We're sort of building the resources to do this in 5 to 10 years. And then if everybody each year in good faith puts their money in the pot, then we will over time have the resources to do this. And it would also be an ongoing demonstration of, yes, we're serious, we're here at the table, we're partners, et cetera. And so I don't know exactly how that would work, but I think the idea that we need the city to be over, for multiple years in a row, kind of demonstrating a commitment in this direction of some amount, is maybe a step that could be looked at. So I would call that out.
Okay, great.
I also kind of want to just emphasize that the rent we'd be receiving from the city is lower than the private market too. So, I mean, if it is equal ownership, I love that idea of trying to find a way of getting to that equal ownership point. Obviously, this is all, in some ways, it is still linked to all of our LEB taxpayers, but it does change the way that we budget for our students. So kind of however that works to move forward together, just some kind of more formal commitment would really help.
Carrie has her hand up. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure we get her in.
Thank you. So I think, I appreciate everybody's efforts in this. I think it's really good work. One thing that I wonder is, the cost benefit of if we were to decide to sell or, put this place on standby or whatever we want to do, what the cost of another rental space would look like. I think that would be a piece of information that would be really helpful at some point. I know that's kind of like throwing a dart at a target, but I think that would be something that would be helpful just to compare, because we're talking a lot about all this money that we're spending, but it may actually not end up being really cost prohibitive to look at walking away. Thank you.
That's good. Okay. Does that answer your question? Which started on okay. All right. We are going to move on to second reading of policy IC and EHAG, and since Richard is not here, I'll just ask, does anybody have anything additional on these policies that they wanted to bring up? Yes, Jessica?
So for policy the EHAG, I had brought this up at the last meeting, the formatting, it's a very long policy. So I don't normally care about this, but I think this is an important one, and it's a long policy, and it's going to come up a lot in the next few years.
It didn't fix the subtitles. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Under
there's still particularly under E, there's all of those are lacking sub headings, and then the ones below that. I think that's really the only thing, but I think it is important. I don't know if we need to
we don't have to stop it, but we can fix it.
Okay, can that get fixed?
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
That was great.
I'll talk to you about it.
I move that they be cast or whatever it is.
Okay, Jessica, do you want to make a motion?
I'm gonna make a motion.
to move these to, I don't even do it myself.
Approve.
To
Not a
approve,
second,
sorry,
to
motion to
approve.
approve these policies.
I make a motion that we approve these two policies.
Okay, great, thank you. As amended.
As amended.
Second.
Thank you. So motion by Jessica, second by John. So we're going to vote on that. I know I never do it. It's a roll call vote. Jessica?
Yes.
Tia?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Joe?
Yes.
Layla?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, let's move those on, and I'm gonna leave that over there so I don't forget it. Okay, and then, new business, we need to acknowledge a $2,000 donation from the Jack and Dorothy Byrne Foundation for LHS drama supplies. Do we know more about this?
This is for the play that is coming up, Clue. And I believe it's in March.
End of March 27th or?
March 27th. So this will be
Usually.
towards their supplies. And another thank you for the Jack and Dorothy Byrne Foundation.
Yes, the play is on March 27th and March 28th. One performance on the 27th and two performances on the 28th. It's a very short play. There's a tall kid in it that looks a lot like me. We want to thank the Jack and Dorothy Byrne Foundation, as usual, for their generosity. They have been really, really generous this year and into our arts at the high school, and we really appreciate that.
Do we send them like a fruit basket or something?
They send thank
or like
you
nice,
notes.
do we
Yes.
send
A letter
nice,
after
a nice
every
like
day.
picture of all the wonderful things they're doing?
Yeah, there's a letter sent immediately after the donations received.
Yeah.
Very nice letter.
It's a nice letter. Okay. All right. Let's see. Public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Seeing none. Is there any public comment online?
There is none.
Okay. That brings us to, before we have committee updates, we mentioned this earlier, but we'll mention it again. Today is the last meeting for two of our board members who are departing, Kevin Schutz and Jessica Satterley Hall. And Kevin, as I said before, could not be here because he is at a game, but Jessica is, we just wanted to thank you for your efforts on the board and for your service and your time, and this is the swag that we give people to leave. So thank you very much. It's a Lebanon Raiders sweatshirt. So just a small token of our appreciation for your service on the board. Thank you very much. All right, committee updates. Finance and facilities, next meeting is to be determined. Policy committee, next meeting is on March 3rd at 6 p.m. at the SAU. Education committee, next meeting is on March 5th at 12 p.m. at the SAU. Personnel and negotiations, the next meeting is to be determined. SWAC met on February 12th, and their next meeting, we had another meeting. Yes.
Yep. Carrie, is any update from SWAC?
I was not able to go to because of John's surgery. Is Jack still there? He might have an update.
He left. That's all right.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll wait on
Yeah,
the update.
sorry,
for that.
got
That's
nothing
okay.
for you.
Thank you. The next meeting is April 19th. HACTC, the next meeting is March 18th at 12 p.m. at HACTC. Area committee, the next meeting is on March 9th at 6 p.m. School district and city task force. Oh, we are meeting on election day? Okay. Next meeting is March 10th at 6 p.m. at City Hall. Just going to make it hard for me to be a poll worker, so we're going to fix that. I'm not going to be a poll worker.
Can you be a poll worker there?
No. So I have to go to mine, which is okay. All right. City Housing Task Force, the next meeting is on March 16th at 8:15 a.m. Future agenda items, board member recommendations or questions? No, okay. Important dates and district announcements. February break is happening starting on Monday to Friday. City voting day, we want to encourage everyone to vote, is on March 10th. Our next school board meeting is March 18th. Yes, that's right. And, oh yes, and candidate night.
Wednesday, I believe.
The 25th.
What time is it at? Hold on one second. Candidate night for city council and for school board candidates is going to be on the 25th of February, and it will be at City Hall, and it will be from 6 to 8 p.m., and it will be available remotely as well. So this event is going to be moderated by the Upper Valley Business Alliance, and if you have any questions or questions that you would like the moderator to ask, there is an email for her, which is morgan@uppervalleybusinessalliance.com. So you can send her questions, and we encourage everyone to go to or listen to the candidate nights. Okay, other business? No, we will be going into non-public, which is going to be under, I forgot to tell you this.
A.
Should be B.
B.
Yes. We're going to go into non-public. For those of you who are online, when we come back, we will just be concluding the meeting and adjourning, so there'll be no additional public business. So we need a motion to go into non-public.
Make a motion that we go into non-public under RSA 91A3 to B.
Okay, motion by John.
Second.
Second by Joe. We need a roll call vote. Jessica?
Yes.
Tia?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Joe?
Yes.
Layla?
Yes.
And Carrie?
Yes.
And we will actually call you this time when we're in there. So the meeting, we're going to non-public at 8:39 p.m.